GoFundMe.com.
You can't handle the truth.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
You have offended my family.
Hey, this is great, man.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
I know nothing.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We don't need no stinking budget.
Homosexuality, immorality, general.
How in the century you have slurred the meaning of the words we, the people.
Be warned, this is not your mother's marijuana.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Clatsop County District Attorney Josh Marquis of Astoria, Oregon, is none too happy about citizens like me poking around in his public records. Now, DA Marquis, the de facto spokesperson for law enforcement's opposition to Oregon's Measure 91, our marijuana legalization initiative, is trying to intimidate me into ceasing my investigation into the misuse of federal grant money and county resources to plan, produce, promote, and present so-called educational events that only occur when marijuana legalization is on the ballot. Yesterday, I learned that DA Marquis has filed a complaint with the Oregon Secretary of State's office regarding my fundraising for this investigation. I have created an online fundraiser at GoFundMe.com/FightSabet to raise $5,000 for the fees that 5 counties will charge me for Oregon open records requests. I've made requests for these counties' district attorneys and drug prevention coordinators' emails concerning the planning of the Oregon Marijuana Education Summit and Tour featuring my nemesis Kevin Sabet. Knowing Sabet's anti-legalization marketing campaign like I do, I knew that this education would consist of scaremongering, half-truths, and obfuscations intended to produce doubt among Oregon voters who are predicted to pass Measure 91. DA Marquis' complaint is frivolous, but it is a significant reaction to the headway I've been making in this investigation. He claims that requesting these records is a pro-Measure 91 activity that should require me to form an official political action committee, or PAC, and disclose my fundraising as political activity. He further wishes me to disclose my funders, which is odd considering most of them are already publicly listed on the GoFundMe site. And the few anonymous donors I have, 10 out of the 34 who've donated, they're just citizens with no ties to any public funds or Measure 91 campaign resources whatsoever. Now, while I am stridently pro-marijuana legalization, I'm also firmly pro-free and fair elections and anti-district attorneys breaking the law. While the chief petitioner of Measure 91 is a personal friend of mine, I do not work for the Measure 91 campaign, and I am not funded by the Measure 91 campaign. And if someone can show me that public officials have been using public money to produce educational materials and events promoting Measure 91, I'll be happy to investigate that too. What I am is a private citizen raising private donations for seeking records that any citizen is entitled to review by law. That's not pro-Measure 91. That's pro-First Amendment. What does DA Josh Marquis have against government transparency anyway? And as intimidation tactics go, it seems kind of moot, since even if it is upheld, I would just register and disclose everything with the Secretary of State and then continue with the requests. DA Marquis' filing of this complaint comes a day after I have sent letters and documentation to the Oregon Secretary of State, the Oregon Attorney General, and U.S. Congressman Earl Blumenauer, my representative, detailing what I believe to be significant violations of ethics and the law by Marquis and other Oregon County officials involved with both the 2014 and 2012 versions of the Oregon Marijuana Education Summit. And Congressman Blumenauer seems to agree with me. I had emailed those as PDFs as well, and I CC'd the Clatsop County Community Relations Coordinator, Tom Bennett, who's been dealing with my requests. Do you think perhaps Bennett let DA Marquis know I was calling in state officials and a U.S. congressman for help? And maybe that fueled his complaint? Worse, DA Marquis' latest attempt at intimidating me comes on the heels of my latest request for emails from private Gmail accounts that I believe DA Marquis and DA LaRich in Jefferson County may have been using for official business in order to circumvent Oregon open records law. What could be so sensitive to DA Josh Marquis and DA Stephen LaRich in those Gmail accounts that has gotten me 2 rejection emails from the Clatsop County Community Relations Coordinator so far, and this specious complaint to the Secretary of State? If these Gmail accounts, which are, by the way, coastda@gmail.com and madressda@gmail.com, if they're being used for official public business, then they are subject to the Oregon Open Records Law. And it seems that DA Marquis is well aware of that. In an email I have dated August 30th, 4 days after I sent my first records request to both Clatsop and Jefferson counties, DA Marquis uses the coastda@gmail.com account to contact an unknown recipient, presumably the coordinator of the summit and tour. In the email, DA Marquis explains, quote, "Both Stephen LaRich and I have received very invasive and harassing demands for all our emails, phone calls, even websites visited," end quote, and follows that up with, quote, "Now Steve has a private email address, madressda@gmail.com. So why would DA LaRich now need a private email address after I had made records requests for his official county emails? And of course, Marquis continues, quote, "He, meaning well, asked me about inviting the loon who sent the demand, Russ Belville, to be a presenter. I told him I thought that was a very bad idea," end quote. Why is it that a citizen who seeks a public records request is considered by the district attorney of Clatsop County to be a loon? This is not DA Marquis' first attempt to intimidate me. I first filed my requests on August 26th to the county clerk, 5 days after I had learned Kevin Sabet would be coming to town to reprieve the summit that in 2012 was very clearly anti-Measure 80. That was our 2012 legalization measure. And it was very clearly funded by public money. The very next day, DA Marquis himself called me directly. Now, I don't know if this is standard procedure. These are the first records requests I've ever made. In fact, my first requests were Federal Freedom of Information Act requests because I didn't even know there was a state-level version for Oregon. I do now, and you can learn more at open-oregon.com. But I did find it a bit intimidating that the man I'm investigating for his possible breaches of ethics and the law was calling me about my investigation. I was even more intimidated as DA Marquis repeatedly prefaced his remarks with, "Well, as a lawyer, I have to say." And he explained to me how he would be the one making the decisions as to which of his emails I could review. I took those concerns to the county manager, Scott Summers, in an email dated September 2nd, asking if Summers, rather than DA Marquis, could be in charge of determining which of DA Marquis' emails I would receive. This earned me an email reply from DA Marquis using his county email address, sent just 33 minutes after I had sent the email to Mr. Summers. Quote, "I doubt you would be intimidated by anything I could say, and I frankly consider this request harassment," end quote, DA Marquis wrote to me. Now, why would an elected official consider an open records request harassment at the same time he is telling me, quote, "I foolishly attempted to expedite your non-request. The FOIA does not apply to state agencies," end quote. Now, this began a series of back and forth emails between me and DA Marquis, which eventually led to him ordering me, through his county email address, to not contact him anymore. I did respond to both his county and his Gmail address, expressing my belief that I can't be ordered to not email a public official on a public email address, at least not without a court judging that it's harassment. He responded to me with the coastda@gmail address, that the same address that I've made the latest requests over, and said, quote, "If weed makes people as mean and crazy as you, I've seriously underestimated its dangers," end quote. Literally, that's what DA Marquis told me, that I'm mean and crazy. In our back and forth, I did accuse him of cannabis bigotry, of using public resources to lobby against Measure 91, and of violating the law. But I don't think I wrote anything mean and crazy. Sarcastic and snarky, perhaps. Now, since the local media has begun digging into the political nature of these educational events, the promoters have been scrambling to replace all the public funding they had counted on with private donations, including $10,000 from the Oregon Sheriff's Association that D.A. LaRich seems to have raised during work hours from his county office. But the advertising and coordination of the 2014 event may have already used public resources. Best Care Prevention, a federal grant recipient, and members of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission withdrew from the event once the Oregon Health Authority sent notice that it was clearly a political event against Measure 91. The materials for the 2014 event were produced by county employees in coordination with Kevin Sabet, based on their work at the 2012 event that was openly exhorting no votes on Measure 80 and made no attempt to hide its use of public resources. So what does Josh Marquis have to hide? If it's just an educational event and nobody's misused any public funds, he should welcome the disclosure of his emails. If there's nothing damning about his use of a Gmail account to conduct public business, why retaliate with an elections complaint against me? There's something fishy going on in Astoria, and it's not the delicious seafood. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll extend this rant. I will read you Josh Marquis' official complaint letter to the Secretary of State's office about me, with my reactions interspersed. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. At Royal Queen Seeds, we've got premium feminized cannabis seeds, including auto-flowering varieties for the medical cannabis user. We've got bulk shipments available and new CBD oil. Plus, we accept payment in Visa, MasterCard, and Bitcoin, as well as other methods. Check out our website at royalqueenseeds.com for more information. We are located in the Netherlands, and we have online grow experts ready to help you now at royalqueenseeds.com. In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Welcome back, 51 after the hour, and as promised, we'll continue this radical rant. This is the text of the complaint letter that Josh Marquis sent in to the Oregon Secretary of State's office yesterday regarding my requests for records. By this letter, I am requesting investigation and appropriate sanctions against Russ Belville, address unknown to me, but he represents to be in Portland, Oregon, and is a self-described activist and writer for the legalization of marijuana. To be very specific, Mr. Belville has raised and spent well over $2,000 from, according to one of his websites, GoFundMe.com/FightSabet. Actually, he wrote www.fundme/FightSabet.com. At least 30 different sources. The sole purpose of this fundraising is to finance his self-described investigation of myself and other elected officials who have dared to voice opposition to Measure 91. He continues, ORS 260.044 and related statutes require anyone who expends more than $750 in favor or in opposition to a ballot measure. The entirety of Mr. Belville's investigation is to silence opponents of the ballot measure. He is unrestrained in his belief without any accompanying evidence that I, an elected official as defined by ORS 260.433, have violated state and federal laws by speaking out against Measure 91. Okay, so already he's trying to obfuscate exactly what's going on here. What you have done, Marquis, is violated laws by using a Gmail address to conceal your work on these clearly political events from open records requests. And you've used your office and its resources in coordination with other county officials and offices to campaign against a ballot measure. You can speak out against it all you like. In fact, I just was at the Salem City Club debate where you spoke out against it with Representative Blumenauer in the debate. Did you see me trying to stop you from speaking out there? Not at all. I just expect you to have to play by the same rules I have to play by. And that is, if I want to play in the political pool, I got to raise my own private money to do so. You should have to do the same thing. You shouldn't get the benefit of taxpayer resources, taxpayer offices, taxpayer grant money to campaign against marijuana initiatives, or any initiatives for that matter. He continues, quote, I presume he will respond that he is simply a community-funded journalist seeking the truth, but even the most cursory review of Mr. Belville's various websites and articles he proudly announces are published on internet venues, including High Times and the Huffington Post, make it clear he is a strident activist who bitterly opposes anyone speaking out in opposition to marijuana legalization. No, not true at all, actually. I am a strident activist for marijuana legalization, but I have no issue whatsoever with people speaking out against it. In fact, I welcome it. It gives me more material for my daily talk show. However, I am adamantly opposed to my opponents having the benefit of their public offices, their public resources, and their public funding to produce anti-legalization events, especially because I have to beg and scrape for every private dollar of funding I receive to produce my pro-legalization media. Marquis continues, quote, based on the wording and hyperlinks in the website joshmarquisexposed.com, the author of that site has paid for special billing on Google's search page, and I believe Mr. Belville to be the author and creator of that otherwise anonymous website. If I were running for office, which I did in May of this year, Mr. Belville could argue it was an attempt to unmask the real Josh Marquis. I recognize as an elected official, I have to put up with the outright lies on this website without recourse. I never, for example, sought a pay raise from voters, nor did I allow Mark Bebout to be released from jail. Both these cases, as well as the other misrepresentations in the Josh Marquis Exposed site, are simply lies. Oh, you have to put up with such political hardball. Oh, you poor man. First of all, I know the people who put together joshmarquisexposed.com, and I've given them permission to reprint my work, but I have not created or funded the website in any way. Furthermore, that thing on Mark Bebout being released from jail, stay tuned for hour 2. We'll tell you all about that one and how Bill O'Reilly is pissed off at Josh Marquis. Marquis' letter continues, but Mr. Belville is not attacking me because he thinks I'm doing a poor job as DA. His sole purpose is to affect the campaign for Measure 91, a motivation clearly expressed in the website in which he seeks and receives money to pursue public records requests for thousands of my emails, his articles in his publication, theweedblog.com, and now his efforts to smear my name and dissuade me from any further advocacy against Measure 91. Nice try. My clear motivation from the beginning is to see to it that the anti-legalization forum can't be produced with taxpayer resources like it clearly was in 2012. He continues, he is obviously free to criticize and even lie about my record in his own blog, on his own internet radio show, or by giving away articles to places like the Huntington Post. known in journalism as content farms, since they'll accept almost anything and pay nothing to fill bandwidth. Well, folks, this is what's called an ad hominem attack, bolstered by an appeal to authority fallacy. He continues. But when he raises and expends thousands of dollars to affect the outcome of an imminent ballot measure, he, like the other three organizations aside from the yes and no campaigns on Measure 91, is required to register with the Secretary of State and report the name, amount, and occupation of his contributors. To allow without independent expenditure reporting is to permit a shadow campaign funded by anonymous donors who can influence voters without ever revealing their identity, something fundamentally illegal under Oregon law. Exactly! Just what you guys have been doing with the so-called marijuana educational tour. Independent expenditures. Not independent, public expenditures. Trying to run a shadow campaign to influence the Oregon Measure 91 election. He concludes with, I would specifically refer your office to the fundme.com/FightSabet website, the JoshMarquisExposed.com website, and only for purposes of Mr. Belville's stated reasons for his attacks on me, namely supporting Measure 91 and attacking those opposed to Measure 91, his primary website, theweedblog.com. Actually, my primary website is RadicalRuss.com. The Weed blog is run by some other fellows who I do submit articles to. What I have a screenshot of the Google search page engine. If someone Googles my name, Josh Marquis, what I show is an ad that advertises the website Josh Marquis Exposed. This is only relevant to this complaint in that it requires expenditure of funds, and in combination with the almost $3,000 Mr. Belville brags about raising, I believe he is also expending money as part of his campaign to silence opposition to Measure 91. Again, not silencing anybody, just asking them to play by the same rules I have to play by. What Marquis calls silencing, I call expecting public officials, especially district attorneys, to obey the law. Oh, we got plenty more of this rant left. Josh Marquis, you wanted my attention? You wanted my sincere and undivided attention? Join me in Hour 2 when we take a look at the Clatsop County jail roster of May 2012, when a man was released from that jail who later went on to murder 2 people in Portland because the jail was overcrowded. Guess who was taking up some spots in that jail? You'll find out in Hour 2. For everyone here at 420radio.org, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.